I'm Carolyn Phippen.
I'm Kathleen Anderson.
And we just had an adventure here in Salt Lake yesterday in the Republican Women's Club.
We did. The Republicans Women Club of Salt Lake City, we think, or county.
It's both.
It used
to
be city, yeah.
Yeah. And it is still filed as city with the national.
Correct.
Yeah, but we don't really know. But anyway, so we walked in to join the club. The club had 10 members last year, and a number of conservatives joined in the spring, and then the election was called off after they joined because there was going to be an election in February or March or something. Election was called off, and they said, oh, no, we need to have it in November. Here we are, December. And they said, oh, it'll be in November. They said that. And so we showed up with a bunch of other women, but Kathleen, where did you see it? You sent me a text and said, I heard about the women's club. I'm going to come and support you. Did you see it on social media?
Yeah, I think somebody reached out to me on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And sent me a direct message. I wasn't aware that any of this was taking place. So a woman did reach out and say, hey, are you aware that there's an election and that Carolyn's running for president? And I said, no. She goes, would you come? And I said, sure. And just so you know my background, I used to be the president of this club from 2010 to 2012. So I have a history with the Women's Republican Club of Salt Lake City. And then after I did that 2-year term, I went on to become the president of the UFRW, which is the Utah Federation of Republican Women, and did that for three and a half years. So I have an extensive experience with these clubs here in the state of Utah. So when I received that message to come out, I showed up yesterday with every intention. No, I paid my dues a few days before, actually, because I think I reached out to you and said, hey, who do I pay my dues to? And there was some confusion about that, which there shouldn't have been.
No, there shouldn't have been.
But there was. And so what I did was I Venmo'd the 2024 dues and the 2025 dues to the current president.
No, current at the time.
Current at the time, because now it's
previous. Yes.
So whoever was the president 3 days ago, I Venmo'd her my dues for $70 and showed up thinking that that's that, because in the past, there were only 2 requirements. You had to be a Republican woman and pay your dues, and then that was it.
And by the way, the bylaws still state those as the only 2 requirements.
Those are the only 2 requirements. Yeah. So when I showed up yesterday, 5 minutes early, which was great for me, I was shocked to see how many people were already there, but then further shocked when I went to go into the meeting room that I was we were barricaded by a table, for starters. So it's just a single door. There was a table, and then suddenly there was this man, large man in a dress, telling me that I could not enter because I wasn't on the list. You know, what's your name? Kathleen Anderson. You're not on the list. And I'm like, what list? Because it has never been that way before. Right. And now they're saying that if your dues are due in January and then they're delinquent by March.
Which, by the way, the bylaws say they are delinquent by March 1st, but we got an official interpretation from an actual certified parliamentarian.
Which said what?
Which said that is only for people who...
Renewing. For existing members renewing their membership.
And by the way, they took money from people, and we have proof of it, in March and April of this year.
Sure. I have no doubt.
And it counted toward 2024 dues, but it didn't for us.
I have no doubt that any of that is true. So what happened yesterday was, I mean, just if you want to put it nicely, I mean, highly unusual. But I think it was more than highly unusual. There was something else going on. And there have been a lot of stories about it. And I've read a few things, and it's been all over social media. Granted, we've put things on social media too. But just reading the comments, seeing the shares and the quotes and what people are saying, if you didn't know the situation, you might be under the impression that a bunch of outsiders tried to take over the Women's Republican Club yesterday. And that could not be further from the truth. Carolyn and I, we have known each other in the Republican Party we've known each other for decades, but
in the party for 15 years.
15 years, yeah, at least. And we both have run for elected office, as Republicans. She ran for U.S. Senate this election cycle. I ran for Congress in 2020. It's not like we just popped up out of the woodworks and nobody knows who we are. We have been extremely involved in the party. I have for at least 30 years at the grassroots level. I mean, for heaven's sake, my husband's the former chairman of the Utah Republican Party. It's not like we decided as Democrats last week that we were going to join the Women's Republican
No, that
Club.
would have been okay.
Well, that might have been okay. But I was the president of this club. I was the president of the Utah Federation of Republican Women. And to show up yesterday and have this very large man in a dress physically barricade the door and tell us that we couldn't enter.
Yeah. When you had proof of paying your dues.
And when I provided proof of paying my dues, I was still denied entry.
And by the way, so that they didn't have to do that with me, they refunded my dues.
They didn't refund mine, and they still haven't refunded.
They still haven't refunded yours?
No.
And yeah, there were people who were denied. I saw a check today of somebody who was denied entry because their name was not on the list, and they paid in April, I think, and that check cleared.
So I think what a few things. People think the only thing we care about is that there was a transgender barricading the door. That's only part of the story.
Yeah.
The part that we care about the most is that we know what the rules are and that they weren't being followed. And if they were being followed, it was selectively. And that is never okay.
Well, and the thing is, we knew that they weren't following the rules because I got a call earlier in the week, and I was told that we would not be allowed to join, and that we would not be.
Which is unbelievable.
And this is a club that had 10 members in 2023, and we brought 110 women with us to join this club. Right. You would think you would want a vibrant club. And by the way, since yesterday, so many. We have had so many people reach out and say, I knew nothing about this club. How do I join?
How do I join?
I want to participate.
And nothing makes us happier than to have new people want to join our ranks who believe in the mission of the Republican Party or what it means to be a conservative, or how do I get involved? And I love it because so many have said, I've always wanted to, I didn't know how.
They don't know how.
They don't know how. And neither obviously do we. And we're enmeshed in the system. And they did everything, they were doing everything they could to keep us from participating.
Right. But Kim Coleman made a really great suggestion about a week ago.
And she's our RNC committee woman from the state of Utah, by the way.
Yes. And she said, we need to hire a parliamentarian. And I thought, are you sure we need to go that far? Thought it through. And absolutely, we would not have won that election without a parliamentarian. The parliamentarian, we sent him all the bylaws ahead of time for national and local. No one has still seen the state club rules.
And you guys, it shouldn't be hard to
members don't have them.
It should not be hard for anyone to access bylaws. And people say, well, it's a private organization. Well, so is the Utah Republican Party. But they have a website, and their bylaws and their party constitution are posted on there for anybody to access and to see. And that's the way all organizations should be, especially ones that are filed as 501c.
It's not a 501c. We don't know what
it used to be.
But we don't know. What we know is that it is a corporate charitable organization is what it's filed at. We don't know what the exact filing is.
Well, those are typically not private.
You are correct.
They're not private,
right.
And it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be so difficult to access the rules to make sure. It would have been nice, had we been able to reference some things. But that information's been very difficult for us to.
But I will say it doesn't matter because we were able to get most of the bylaw information, and we had a parliamentarian there, and we had to hire somebody to come to represent us. Because we were concerned after I got that phone call that we would be treated fairly and in accordance with the rules, the filed rules required by law, filed rules of the organization. We knew, we were concerned that those might not be respected. And as it turns out, that was the case.
Right.
And so we had a parliamentarian there who could make rulings as a parliamentarian, and he will be issuing a report. And he made a declaration at the end of the meeting after elections were held that everything that took place was in accordance with bylaws and law, and it was all done properly.
Which is important because
we care.
We do care about following the rules and doing things properly. So there was nothing nefarious about our attempt to show up yesterday and to participate. And it was always, we were trying to do it within the rules of the organization. with the best that we could find,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and based upon what my historical knowledge was of the organization in years past. And that's the way it has always been. And if anyone's watching this video who perhaps is involved in a women's Republican club in your own state that's part of the federation at your state and the national, I would love your feedback. Have you ever denied people joining your club?
Especially when it
is floundering
by
to
10
exist.
times increases the number.
Yeah, it's been floundering. I mean, to even be part of the federation, the club has to have a minimum of 10 people. And that's what it's been limping along at for years.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people who are dissatisfied with maybe the way things are in Salt Lake City or Salt Lake County right now, if you're a conservative, I would think that you would very much want a more vibrant club.
Yeah, but there was one caveat in there, if you're a conservative. And I think that's the differentiating factor.
And it does feel that way.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we're not imagining or making this up. But it has felt as though if you are genuinely a conservative woman, you're not wanted even in the Republican women's clubs here in our state.
And that's starting to change.
At least in Salt Lake County.
Yeah, and it needs to change.
It does need to change.
And the response that we've gotten since this meeting yesterday is evidence that people are looking for that change.
Right.
There's nothing inspiring about somebody who stands for nothing.
Right. Stand for something.
Yeah.
And so, we're still trying to acquire some information. It's a day after, more than 24 hours later. And to my knowledge, there hasn't been any statement in response to what happened yesterday from the Utah Federation of Republican Women. Are you aware of anything?
I am not aware of one.
And I'm not aware of one from the National Federation either.
Yeah, I'm not either. I do know that a lot of people, again, have reached out and said, these are the kinds of things that need to take place throughout the party in the state. People are frustrated. We do have support of leadership within the party itself, and I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
We have to have more people who are willing to step up and speak out, but I do think it comes down to what you said, Kathleen, and that is people don't know where to start. And they look at this big organization that they may not trust because it's this big bureaucratic organization. A women's Republican club is a really great place to start, to get to know people. We plan on, this was a lunch club, and we will be doing so much more. We will have all kinds of ways to get involved, and we want to bring more and more women into this club to be supportive. It's funny because I had somebody reach out to me on social media tonight who's a man and wears pants and said... and he said, is there any way for men to get involved, even if it's just to make donations? Well, because I completely support what you're doing.
Historically, for men to be involved in a women's Republican club, they paid dues as an associate member, not a full member. And so what that meant was they paid a lesser amount for their dues, but they were not voting members of the club. So,
and they cannot run. But they can't. They have no power.
They can't hold any position.
Yeah.
So it was, everything about yesterday was in such stark contrast to what the club has always been before. To have a man in a dress stating that he was a full paying member of the club,
and by the way, who barred the man who was our paid parliamentarian.
He was barring everybody
from going, but he was not allowed in with members who he allowed in. They were not allowed to have a floor parliamentarian, which is proper process. You should allow him in. And the response that I got when I asked why they couldn't have their parliamentarian accompany them was, is he a dues-paying member of this club with voting rights from a man with voting rights?
Right. That's my impression. Yes and yes.
Yeah.
And wasn't he acting as though he were or was their parliamentarian yesterday?
Yes, but he wasn't running the meeting like their parliamentarian. He was chair. I asked him, I said, are you the chair's parliamentarian? And he said, I'm the chair and I'm the parliamentarian. That isn't how it works.
No, that is not how it works.
But he is not a certified parliamentarian.
So everybody knows there are elected officers of these clubs. The president at the time was not there.
Correct.
Were any of the vice presidents there?
One vice president. I think there is only one vice president.
Was there a secretary? Was there a treasurer?
No.
So you had one elected member of the WRC of Salt Lake City that was actually in attendance yesterday, but the show was being run by the man in the dress.
Correct. And by the way, we weren't allowed in initially. We were later.
About an hour and a half later, by the way.
After some smart parliamentary moves.
After a lot actually. We got yelled at by the establishment's manager, even though I didn't think we were doing anything out of line. I thought we were fine. And were you not there when that happened?
No.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Let's talk about that later.
We can talk about that later, but I don't think anyone was doing anything.
No.
We were told, though, if we couldn't get into the room that we had to take a seat and had to order.
Which is fair.
Which is fair.
Because we don't want to be blocking aisles.
No,
I told them, I said, you
that's
just
fine.
tell us what we have to do.
And we did.
And we will do what we have
We
to
did.
do.
Because I know there are some people who think, well, why didn't you guys physically force yourselves
Yeah.
past the man in the dress? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, first of all, we were in a restaurant, and I don't know a lot of women that physically
Push past a huge man.
or think that you can. And when there's a table in between you two, and I said, to my husband, I think he outweighed me 3 times.
Yeah,
easily, and much taller. And unless you've been a much smaller female in a situation like that, it's easy to say, why didn't you do that?
And by the way, we followed all process and order, and we did not want to create a disruption.
No, we didn't. And that's not the way I resolve things. People are like, why didn't you talk it through? We tried.
Yeah.
We tried. And I will tell you this, Carolyn, from where I was sitting, I ended up at a table with 6 women. And so I was able to see into the glass windows of the room the whole time from where I was sitting.
Where there were 10 or 12 people.
And while I am grateful for the parliamentarian that you organized to be there, it bothered me to watch 3 men huddled behind the glass, the man in the dress, the parliamentarian that Carolyn hired, and another man in a baseball cap. And they huddled, and when they were done huddling, we were permitted after an hour and a half for our meeting to take place. It bothers me very much that here we are at a Women's Republican Club event, a meeting, and it's not until we get the agreement of the 3 men that we're able to proceed. And if other people don't see something wrong with that, that is so incredibly wrong to me.
Right.
That
I know you're very bothered by that.
I'm very bothered by that, because as I drove home, I was really angry at the time. And then I drove home and I was thinking about it after I'd calmed down. It had been a couple hours and I was really thinking about what had happened. And then I started to think about that. So here we have 3 men that huddle. And at some point we're allowed to proceed with our meeting, where Carolyn is elected unanimously, by the way. And I contrast it to what's going on back in Washington, D.C. this week. So some of you may not know that this week was the unveiling or the dedication or something of the statue of Martha Hughes Cannon. And she was the first woman in the United States, or in Utah?
In the United States.
In the United States to vote in an election while she was in Utah. And she was also the first elected female senator in the United States. Is that correct?
Oh, you can't ask me that right now.
Something like that. Maybe a state senator, maybe not a U.S. senator, but a senator. So she was the first woman to vote, one of the first women to hold office, and they're back there celebrating this accomplishment from over 100 years ago. And while that's happening, we are barred from participating in a Women's Republican Club
and voting
meeting, and it's not until 3 men huddle up and come to some whatever that we are permitted to proceed. I felt driving home that they're back celebrating something in Washington, while at the same time women's rights in Utah have been set back 100 years.
And by the way, one of the women back there celebrating is the one who called me and told me we would not be permitted to join.
Well, that's even worse.
That's even worse.
That's even worse.
Significantly worse.
Significantly.
Yeah.
I agree.
And who ordered that all of our money, our dues, be refunded to us. Yeah. So this is a complete misunderstanding. Isn't the?
It's worse than that.
It's worse than that.
It's an utter failure of the system. But I don't know. We've just come through an election where we have proudly announce that the Republican Party is the party for free, fair, and honest and transparent elections. And then this happens.
Yeah, but I do think there's something, there are a number of things really changing right now in the country and in our culture. And I think it is really difficult for some people to grasp if they're not a part of that movement that is forwarding the change. So if you're outside of this kind of wave that took over this year, if you aren't a part of that, if you don't buy into that, if you don't understand that, if you aren't committed to it, no matter what you say, if you aren't truly a part of that, you have no clue what's happening in the country right now. And I think it was clear to me that when I received that call earlier this week, and then in the days between then and the election, that those who were making these decisions for us are not in tune with the changes taking place in the nation and in the state on the ground.
I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Yeah.
And I just think, I don't know what it will require, but there is massive change that has been occurring, and I think we will see even greater change in the next few years.
And I just want to make something else clear for anybody thinking, oh, you're a man hater, you're this. No, not at all. And I'm grateful for good men.
We are both well-adjusted women with happy marriages.
We are, and married to wonderful men, very supportive men. And I love being a woman. And I don't think being a woman is being a man, and vice versa. And I love my role as a woman. And I think that when we work together that way, we work beautifully together, as I think is intended. And just what happened yesterday was, it really threw me for a loop. When it happened, I wasn't prepared. I had no idea I was walking into that situation. No one had said anything to warn me. So when it was happening and I'm standing there, I started shaking. I was so upset.
You were really upset.
I was really upset.
But everybody handled themselves so well. In fact,
we didn't cause a scene.
We caused no scene. We sat down and ate lunch and waited for the motions to be made for us to go into this private room.
Yeah. And just so you know, he did threaten to call the police on me. I don't know if he did that with other people, but he told me.
They did call the police.
They did call, right.
And the police looked around, and I had a conversation with them. I know somebody who overheard them. If this conversation is correct, it's somebody I trust, who overheard them tell the people who called the police, these women are doing nothing wrong. They have every right to be here. And there's nothing for us to...
and not that it matters either. I might have on a MAGA hat during this video today. No one was wearing anything like that. Nobody. I didn't have on a hat yesterday. I was dressed in a business suit. I just have a hat on today because I've been busy being a grandmother and then working at my store today. And then Carolyn's like, "Hey, come over." Here I am, and I threw on a hat. Actually, I had on a winter hat, which we didn't think was going to work for the video. And so this is your hat, I think. But anyway, no, it was nothing like that. We don't have hats. We didn't have signs. We were just a bunch of women who had gathered together, really excited about what we thought was going to be the future of this club that was dwindling on the vine and about dead.
And we wanted to revive it.
Yeah.
We live in a county that is suffering from a blue disease.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And things are rapidly going downhill.
Yes.
And this is a really great place to start. And the way that people have reached out to us in the past 24 hours is absolute verification to me of that fact. People want something and they are willing to step up and make a difference if they just know how. Yeah. And we will be putting together so many different committees, doing so many different things. Kathleen is not even in leadership. You didn't run for anything.
I didn't run for anything. I just came to vote.
And you want to be a part of how do we make a change? How do we do everything we can to educate, to get people out, to help them understand that bad public policy is impacting their lives.
I've got to be honest, you guys. I believe in term limits. I had self-imposed term limits on myself. Which is why I haven't been as involved the past few years. Yeah. Because I had been so involved for so many that it does burn you out and
Yeah.
it can, I mean, really burn you out. And so I think it's important to pass that baton to others. So when I was called to come participate in the meeting, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with it all, but I love Carolyn. And so, sure, I show up, and I felt, I'm telling you, what happened yesterday, I think radicalized 100+ women who were
Yes, it
sitting
did.
there, because it was so unbelievable.
All of those women sitting there, and all the women and men who saw what was happening on social media.
Yeah.
We have been, you were retweeted. Well, no, it wasn't you, but a video from it was retweeted by Libs of TikTok. And you have
the engagement
an
on it has
post
been
that
huge.
went viral, massively viral.
Which not everybody has responded to positively. They think posting the pictures of the man in the dress was beyond the pale.
But most people have responded positively. You've gotten caught up in some offensive people, too.
I would say 99% of the reaction to it has been supportive. But you guys, if this is happening in Salt Lake City, Utah, it's happening everywhere. And
we're being shamed to keep our mouths shut.
Yes. You can't kind away things in the world. You have to take a stand. And what do they say? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
But I drew my line in the sand on this issue years ago. So if anybody has seen my X account, you're going to see that I've been tweeting about holding the line, protecting women's spaces. I will be honest with you. When I was posting that stuff before yesterday, women's spaces to me was things like bathrooms, dressing rooms, women's shelters, women's prisons. Hopefully I'll never have to go there. But nobody should have to be put into a place where you're physically at risk.
Right.
And people are like, oh, come on. They don't want to do genitalia check in bathrooms. Nobody does. But
we all know who a man is.
Yes,
and let me tell you.
And I knew that was the man immediately yesterday in a dress.
I showed that picture to a teenager yesterday and said, we were having a conversation about what happened. I hadn't said much, and I said, and we had a women's meeting and we were kicked out and by this woman, and he looked at it and said, that ain't no woman, that's a man.
That's
like, this is not difficult.
Well, I showed the picture to one of my daughters, and I will just leave it at that so that she's not identified.
Right.
And I told her the same thing, and she texted me right back, and she thought I was kidding. And I said, I'm not. She goes, is he dressed like that because he's trying to make fun of women? Because he doesn't look like a woman. And I said, absolutely not that I'm aware of, but we're not a caricature.
That's exactly right.
And that's what it feels like. And I show up to the meeting yesterday in a pantsuit, not a dress.
That's true.
And I'm very much
None of us were wearing dresses.
None of us.
No.
It's cold outside. It's winter. I have on tights. I have on a pantsuit and boots. And
that's true.
Because that's what we do. I mean, I'm not what I wear.
Right.
And I called it woman face in my tweet, which I think is polite, actually, but I'm done. I'm done with this.
Well, and I'll tell you, you and I were not in the meeting when the members were admitted, the 10 to 15 members
Were there
who were
many?
admitted.
It didn't look like
I think
that
it was 10, maybe.
Okay.
I'm trying to be generous.
Okay.
It was probably 10.
So maybe 10 in the room with 100+ of us outside the room.
Yeah, being turned away.
Mm-hmm.
And we eventually made it in, like you said, and we were able to vote. We were able to join and then vote for new leadership. But when that was going on, my understanding is from those who were in the room that this man who was running the meeting was reading his opinion of the bylaws. He is not a certified parliamentarian. The actual parliamentarian was not who we hired and paid to come to represent the members. The actual parliamentarian was barred from entering the room, but this man read his opinion, which was not parliamentarily accurate according to the real
was that the
parliamentarian
opinion that I saw they posted on there?
Yes.
Okay.
I was told it was the same.
So he wrote that opinion
ahead of time.
Okay.
This was not post-meeting. He posted it post-meeting. I was told by people who were in the room that that was what he read.
Well, then that makes it, if he already had a parliamentary report prepared,
prior to the meeting
prior to
occurring?
the meeting, then it tells me that it was premeditated to turn us away.
Correct. And I was told that we would be turned away. I was told. And I said, those are not that is not according to the bylaws. We will be there. That's what I was told. That's what I said. I mean, when I was told we'd be turned away. But I told everybody when they got there, they are not letting us in. Let's sit down, eat some lunch, and see how it works out. And we were perfectly fine. But my understanding is that when he was reading his opinion, and it was truly just an opinion because it wasn't any official parliamentary report, because he is not an official parliamentarian, not a certified parliamentarian. And again, his opinion differs from what the actual certified parliamentarian has told us.
Okay.
So he was reading this report, and when people were calling points of order and such, he told them that parliamentary rules would not be used in the meeting. They're always used. Everything is conducted. He was claiming to be the parliamentarian.
Everything is conducted under the Roberts Rules of Order for these types of meetings, right?
I do think our parliamentarian said that they don't use Roberts here, but regardless, there are rules. I don't know.
Why would we have a parliamentarian if you're not using Roberts rules?
Because you still have to, I don't know, you still operate according to bylaws and laws and proper procedure.
We don't know all these things because we're just normal women with lives.
But right? This is why we hired a parliamentarian.
And we never profess to be experts at everything.
And we shouldn't be.
I'm a good grandmother.
This is true. You know, and you're much more than that.
I am much more than that.
I'm waiting for grandkids. So we are not going to go there.
We have one. And it's been wonderful.
And I think our oldest sons are the same age because they went to a school together 20 years ago.
Well,
25.
My son's 32.
Yeah, so mine's 31.
Okay.
Yours may be a year.
Yeah, pretend like you didn't hear that, but it's true. Right? It's been a long time.
Anyway, but they felt bullied in that meeting by a man when they attempted to use parliamentary procedure. He was there claiming to be the parliamentarian and the chair,
and the bouncer all in one. And that isn't how this works. No, it's not how it works.
You have somebody who runs the meeting, and then the parliamentarian is meant to be separate, and they advise that person. And did I say this already? I asked him, I said, so we have a floor parliamentarian, that's who represents the people. I said, when he told me he was parliamentarian, I said, so are you acting as the chair parliamentarian? And he said, well, no, I'm the chair and the parliamentarian, but it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
But again, he's not a certified parliamentarian, so maybe he doesn't realize that.
Nor is he the chair.
No, nor is he the chair.
Right.
You could be an acting chair, I suppose, but you're a man, and it's a women's group.
Definitely not the chairwoman. We're just gonna lay it all on the table. Right? But
the women in there, when they tried objecting to the procedure, I've watched some video there were videos taken in there.
Really?
And there was somebody who is not a member of this club, who is on the state level, vice president or something.
Of the UFRW?
Yes.
Okay.
Who ordered a member to leave. And
why?
Ordered Kim Coleman to leave.
Why?
She said, you are dismissed or something like this. And the entire body that was in the room said, oh no, oh no. And one member, Gloria, who's our new first vice president now, was going in and out so that people who were eating lunch, she could give them updates and go back in. And she was told, you will not be leaving again, or you will not be allowed back in. It's like they're barricaded in the room.
So you're barricaded out and held hostage in?
Yes, that's how this was. If you leave again, you're not coming back in. You
guys, it has never been this way.
And here's the other thing that I've thought about. This, when you have an organization, that organization elects leadership, right? Just so that they can make decisions, run meetings, put things together. But the organization, the people are what form the organization. So these meetings are held not for the good of the people in charge. They are held for the body.
The good of the body.
The body owns it. Right?
Kind of like We the People.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Right? It's supposed to be. We the People.
It's the same
concept.
It's the same concept, and it's the same attitude from those in power. Oh, no, we will tell you what to do. We will tell you how this will go. No, no, no. This is...
And you will like it.
And you will.
And you will like it.
And if you don't, we'll call the police, so sit down and shut up.
That's exactly what was happening yesterday.
Yeah. So, but that is a fundamental misunderstanding of their role versus the role of the body. If the body is fine with somebody giving updates or leaving, maybe someone has a bladder problem and is leaving.
Right. Show me a meeting where people aren't live tweeting or something, any meeting in politics or in these private organizations, at a convention, at any meeting. It's constant.
Right.
It's constant.
And by the way, because our parliamentarian was not allowed, and I say it was the parliamentarian for members who were in the room, because their parliamentarian was not allowed in. They were communicating with him because his job is to know the rules and to guide you strategically.
Right.
So I will just say, in the end, his guidance was all we needed in order for us to get the leadership that all these new people who will reinvigorate this group wanted, to allow them to join, and there was some parliamentary procedure that was used. And I'll tell you, people who were saying, why do you guys put up with this man telling you not to go in? To your point, yes, we're not going to fight him for multiple reasons. But the fact is, we were able to use our brains to win this. And we have to be more strategic. They expected us, I believe that they expected us, this is why they called the police, with nothing going on.
Just another intimidation factor.
Yes.
They expected us to just...
They expected us to lose it so that they could say that we were the ones out of control. And what actually happened is those who didn't get their way, who were leading the meeting, when the body that they had permitted into the room actually voted against what they wanted, because they tried ending the meeting before the vote, and the body said no. And what happened is they all stormed out.
All of them.
So that's who lost their cool, not us.
Right.
They stormed out when they didn't get their way, when the actual members who they recognized, so they can't argue with that, did not agree with how they wanted it run. It is an organization of the body. They made this decision.
Right.
And that's how it should work.
And so the people who were called in to run it disagreed with the body. The body outvoted them, overruled them, or whatever, however you want to say it.
Because they weren't even using real parliamentary procedure for any of it.
They weren't. So it ended up that the few people who were in the room voted against the man in the dress and the people who'd been sent from the state level. And ultimately we did prevail. And I'm grateful for the parliamentarian. I just the way the whole thing went down was...
It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was divisive.
It was unnecessary. It was divisive, and it was just wrong on every level. It never should have happened.
No, and we need to do better, and we will.
And we will do better.
We will do better. And anybody is welcome to join our club, as long as our club. It's not our club.
It is our club.
It is our club.
That's right.
It is a club for all Republican women who want to
of any age, any whatever your background, it doesn't matter.
If you support...
It doesn't matter. If you support Trump, if you don't support... It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. If you support Republican principles, and you are a Republican woman...
You like the platform, you want to see more of it, we're here.
We are here.
And we want to grow.
So reach out to us. You can find me, Carolyn Phippen, on Twitter, on Facebook, it's X. On X, on Facebook,
Kathleen
on
Anderson,
Instagram.
We're one of the too few people in the entire world who actually use their names.
That's right.
On their accounts. So we don't hide behind anonymous accounts. We are who we are, and we're here.
Come find us.
We're going to hold the line, hashtag, right?
That's right.
Hashtag
we need some good hashtags for all of this. We'll figure it out.
We do.
Okay, we've done a new hat thing. So...
Because I was leaving, because it's been snowing.
But we've been sitting here for an hour, 2 hours. I don't. It's been a while. Yeah,
it's been a while.
And Kathleen said something that she wishes she had said on the last video that has to be said.
That I should have said. Just so you know, when I became president of the WRC back in 2010, someone called me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to serve as the president of the Women's Republican Club of Salt Lake City?" And what did I say? I'm not even a member of that club.
There's nothing unusual.
no, this is nothing unusual. And she said, oh, don't worry. All you have to do is pay your dues. That's it. And I did. I held an election and I won.
That's how this is always run.
And that is how I came to be the president of the Women's Republican Club of Salt Lake City. There is no great list of qualifications other than pay your dues and become a member of the club.
Well, and that's funny.
Because usually nobody wants to do it.
Well, that's right.
So they have to call someone who's not involved to get her to do it, because you just think, well, how much work could it be, right?
Yeah, and they get the naive, stupid ones in.
Yes,
yeah,
and I was much younger then.
We are not naive or stupid.
Not anymore.
No.
No, we never were. Anyway,
but right, same thing happened to me. That's how this all went about yesterday,
and
right?
That is normal.
That is normal.
Very typical.
Yeah.
In Utah, anyway. I don't know how it is in other states, but here. Yeah.
And so for people to pretend like this is you weren't a member before, Carolyn. Well, let me tell you, I had been invited to their lunches in the past, and there were 3-5 people there, 3 or 5 people. And I have a busy life, and there just was nothing to draw me in the past. And then I got a similar call. Hey, I put your name in to run for president of this. Please tell me you'll do it. And yeah, let's turn this around. Let's make a difference. That's
exactly how it happens.
Yeah.
But if blood, sweat, and tears were to pay dues, we've done that in spades. But actual dues, whatever they were in 2010, I wasn't even a member when I got the call.
And they gave me my money back, but I paid again.
Yeah.